Toastmaster, for a kind introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I'll talk to you a bit about evaluation, and more specifically the evaluation contest. Now, how does one enter evaluation contests? It's quite simple. You get asked by the person organizing it, and then you think, oh well, yeah, it's not too much of a hassle. I don't have to prepare a long speech. I don't get a word that I might know nothing about. So let's enter. And that's the way I entered my first contest many years ago. And I went to the contest without ever having seen somebody performing as a contestant to do an evaluation. And for those of you who might not know the way those contests work, you can have notes, but once the contest starts, all the contestants leave the room. The sergeant takes your notes, and then it is handed to you just before you speak. So the other contestants don't hear the people talking or speaking before them. And I had the luck to be drawn to speak last at the club contest. So I went outside, waited till last, came in, did my evaluation, and to my surprise I won. So I went through to area. As luck would have it, I was also drawn to speak last, and I won there as well. So then I went through to division, and you wouldn't believe it, but I was also drawn to speak last. And I presented my evaluation, and I won on that level as well. So I had the unfortunate situation to go to the district level contest, never having heard how somebody else presented an evaluation at a contest. At the district level, unfortunately, my luck ran out and I wasn't placed that year, but I did manage to reach that level again in the next years. Now, I was wondering and trying to figure out why I managed to do so well, and I'm not sure if I figured it out yet, but I will share with you the method I used, and maybe you can learn something from that. Now, what I essentially did is I took the judge's guide and ballot, which you can download from the internet, and I had a look at what you get points for. And to summarize my message to you tonight, if you want to do well at the evaluation contest, look at what the judges give points to and just do that. So if you do that and you look at the judges form, you'll see there are 4 categories. There is the analytical quality, which is the most important. It counts 40 points. Then there's recommendations, that's 30 points. And then there's technique, 15. And then the last 15 is the summation. Now this is quite important to pay attention to each of those categories, because in judges' workshops, the judges are instructed, even though not all of them do it, they are instructed that if the contestant doesn't give a summary, he must get 0 or she must get 0 for that section. So immediately you lose 15 points. Also, if you read through the little explanation on the back of the page regarding recommendations, they say that you shouldn't only mention the strengths and weaknesses, you should also give specific recommendations. So in theory, if you don't do that, you can lose another 30 points. And then you have only 55 points as a maximum that you can achieve. So it is quite important to give attention to what you are going to be judged on. So the analytical quality side of it, I think, although my method is fairly formalistic, I do think people that have an analytical mind, an analytical way of looking at things, will do better in contests, because the speech is essentially something that you need to analyze. It's like an animal that you dissect. You have to take the speech and unpack it for the audience. And for that you do need analytical skills. So what I do is I have my own form that I use, and I start off by giving essentially a macro analysis of the speech. I try and sum up the speech in a few sentences. So for example, I would start by saying, Peter, I really enjoyed your speech tonight. You started off by getting our attention with that quote that you gave, and then you spoke about this adventure you had during your vacation. And while you spoke, I realized what you were trying to tell us, you tried to use that story as a metaphor for real life and to teach us something about our society and how to respond to the various challenges. And you concluded very effectively by giving us a challenge to get involved. So with those 3 or 4 sentences, I've analyzed the speech on a macro level. And I do think that is something that this, judges will look for. And then I continue by going through a list of things, and now this is a fairly common part of the evaluation. Most people have notes, which, by the way, you can bring along, and you can prepare some notes, as I do. And there are things like opening, body, conclusion, the construction of a speech, use of language, vocal variety, body language, eye contact, use of notes, use of props, preparation, and control of nervousness. So those would be the typical things that the contestants would speak on. And you need to do the same. But remember, be specific. So if something went well, you can identify it as a strength. And it's always good to use the word strength, because it's they specifically mention in the judge's guide, look for strengths and weaknesses. So say to the speaker, one of your strengths was your use of body language. The other one, of course, is the challenges or the weaknesses of the speech. Those you must also mention. But be specific. So for example, you can say to the speaker, Jonathan, when you spoke about the whole wide world, you used your body very effectively, and you could actually see with your outstretched arms what you were talking about. That was really excellent. So then the judges know, okay, this person listened to the speaker, and he listened attentively. Same goes with recommendations. Be specific. So if the person, for example, didn't use eye contact effectively, you can tell him specifically what he or she must do. For example, mention to them, make sure you look at each member of the audience at least once. Don't just pan over the audience and not look anybody in the eye. So that's something specific that the person can use. Now, as you go through this, we get to another useful piece of advice that I'm sure many of the other members can attest to, and that is the importance of taking part in youth leadership courses. Because there you learn what the different aspects of a typical speech is, or are, and how you should apply them. For example, when you get to vocal variety, there's pitch, grade, volume, and quality. And I can always remember a lecture that Mr. Gauker gives at these youth leadership courses, where he very clearly sets out to the learners what the different aspects mean and how they are used, and he uses examples. So I would really advise you to present at youth leadership courses, at least attend them. For example, in the construction of the speech, you can mention whether the person used humor or not, and whether it was done effectively. Did the person paint word pictures with their words? In terms of language, remember things like grammar, there's always 1 or 2 grammatical errors, of which I've made a couple already, that you can pick up on and that you can mention. Did the person use complex language? Because ideally you should use simple language, simplest words you can to convey your meaning, to make sure that everyone understands you. Use of jargon is to be avoided. In the vocal variety, I already mentioned body language. Also remember, it's not only how you dress and what you do with your arms. It's things like your facial expression, whether you smile, how you dress. All those things can be commented on under the heading of body language. Eye contact already covered. Use of notes, we all know about that. There's also some very good youth leadership lectures telling you all about that, which you can use to make good recommendations. Then one that you often might fall back on. If you have a speaker that speaks very well, very few of them would use props. So that could always be a fallback recommendation. Think of a way that the person could have used a visual aid and fall back into your recommendation. For example, tonight I'll be evaluating Tony, and I'm always worried to do that because he's such an excellent speaker. So if I mention something about props, you know why, because I can't criticize anything else. And then the preparation and nerves is also the rest of it. Maybe just something that I found that could be an issue in making your life difficult when you evaluate, and that is if you have an experienced speaker as a demonstration speaker, because then it's really difficult for the contestants to get those recommendations, find those weaknesses, and all they really have are strengths that they can point out. Something else that might also be difficult is almost the opposite of that. If the speech is very dull, if there's no deeper meaning, that's going to be difficult, because what impresses judges is if you can find some deeper meaning in the speech, and especially if you can find something in the speech that the judges agree with but that none of the other speakers have mentioned, because that will make your presentation stand out in their minds. Alternatively, it's also important not to leave anything out that everybody else mentioned. For example, if the person used their notes very effectively, you are pretty sure that every contestant would mention that. And if you omit that, then it's also going to stand out in the judges' heads that this person missed that obvious aspect that he or she could have commented on. Something else that could be an issue is the timing and the running out of time, because you're always under pressure when you do an evaluation contest. You only have 2 or 3 minutes and you must convey a lot of information. I once had the experience where we had a fairly shallow room, about from here to where the furthest people are sitting, but it was about 3 or 4 times wider. And there was a person speaking about a very emotional topic, and he ended up sitting there after he spoke, and the lights were over here. And because it was such a heavy topic, and you felt such empathy for the speaker, you couldn't really avoid speaking to him a lot. And while I was speaking to him, I didn't get the chance to look at the lights, and I ran over. And afterwards, I made a point. I actually sat behind the person operating the lights, and 3 out of the 5 people were disqualified on timing because of that effect. Now, it won't happen often, but that is one of the things that could ruin your evaluation. In conclusion, I can say that why take part, or I can offer some ideas on why to take part in the evaluation contest. The first one is, to do a prepared speech, you need a lot of time and a lot of effort, and it is quite stressful. So that's not the easy way. Also, if you do an impromptu speech, you can often find a topic and you draw a blank and you struggle. So that's also difficult. The easiest contest, in my view, to take part in is the evaluation contest. You've got your notes, you've done evaluations before, and it is a challenge. So I really want to encourage all of you to really seriously consider taking part in the evaluation contest. If you need any assistance or you want a copy of my notes, you are most welcome. I have got one copy, but I can email it to you if you like. And if you have any questions, welcome to ask me. I'll try and answer it to the best of my ability. It's the Toastmaster that concludes my remarks.